Yeah, I played several times with orchestras. It's a strange experience. You know, you feel very satisfied on one level that you can do it and you pull it off. I think, you know, as sort of improvising guitarists like we are, it's always a bit daunting, and you never have that same freedom. I started, first time I did it, I think was in the late 70s with Adrian in Munich, and I did it. I recorded an album with John Lord, who wrote a concerto for rock band and orchestra, classical orchestra. It was called Saraband, and it was very successful. I played classical and lead guitar on that one, and I did a few other things in life. You know, in fact, the last one I really did was the Finger of Marshall, which we did 3 performances on. There are problems with it because, you know, obviously, you know, we're guys who feel a beat and a pulse, and we play to it, and you have that framework. When you have stringed instruments that, you know, you're drawing a bow across the strings, the pulse is so much harder to find unless they use a snare drum along with it or something. So there are inherent problems playing with an orchestra. It's not easy.
No, you have to get used to the conductor.
Well, you know, you've got classical music with its kind of feeling, and then you've got, you know, rockers coming in to try and play. You know, it can work, and you know, it's always worked. But I'm saying it's you know, it's not the sort of thing we're doing every day, and suddenly you're in that situation, and it's always a bit of a shock of getting used to it again.
Yeah. At an early age, you were a big Wes Montgomery fan, I understood. Or
yeah. Well, there were many. I was really influenced by American jazz guitar players, and you know, of course, Wes Montgomery.
There are occasional jazz records with orchestras, and Brazilians have been known to bring it to an orchestra setting as well.
Well, I think one of the problems for me, I mean, I'm a major fan of Brazilian music. One of the problems with their recordings, I know from the inside down there, they all got obsessed, sort of, particularly in the 70s, with putting strings on everything. You know, it's really dumb. I thought strings make everything better, and they don't. They actually take away from the authenticity of some of the real Brazilian music. So there's a place for strings, but when it's just like what they call sweetening behind a singer or something, it doesn't work.
Mm-hmm.
You know, depends what it is. You know, some of the Jobim records are beautiful.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Go maybe.
Well, one of the things in the previous talk that you did with the panel is you taught me a new phrase which I really enjoyed, which is re-improvise.
Re-improvise.
Yeah, you said it.
Did I say that?
Yeah.
Just a moment ago. You've already forgotten it.
Which one? Yeah. What did I say?
Well, you know, about the recordings that you did with Ben and the listen back and re-improvise and stuff.
Yeah. Well, it's like saying, oh yeah. I mean, what we have done, we would listen to something we recorded on 2 tracks, and I go, all right, you're in that key, and then you move there, and I was sort of striking the attitude. So what I'm really going to copy is the attitude that I had in the playing about, is it like slow and sexy, or am I going to get really aggressive and play short, stabbing little phrases? What am I, you know, what was making it work? So the first thing is, I need to know what the key was, and probably what scales I play, but more importantly is the attitude, you know. Because I always find that, I don't know how Adrian feels about this, but there always comes the moment you make the tracks, and then it comes to the moment when you have to step up to play, and that's you've got to play a guitar solo, like I do. You know, but the way I do it, I mean, there's no formula, you know. What you're relying on is all the things you've practiced in your life. You've been touched by, so you have to practice, of course, and know what you're doing. But you want to create a moment where, you know, the muse strikes and something magical happens. But for me, it's pretty simple. You know, if I'm playing, say, like a solo on a rock track, okay, it goes there, you know, this chords are pretty straightforward. Then just run through it a few times. So it's like I'm just getting to know the territory. It's like this, and I maybe play the solo 3, 4, 5 times. You know, I'm finding out, okay, this is who it's going to be playing this solo, and I do it like that. And usually, one of those will work. Sometimes you get it the first time, but I think you have to practice it a little bit, because suddenly there's this uncharted territory, and you're going to drive through it in your Land Rover, and you've got to know the route. So But, you know, that's based on all these years of playing and sort of knowing how to do it.
Yeah. Is that something that you recognize, Adrian? You've been known to recreate stuff that you did with King Crimson in various other settings.
Well, some things are made to be recreated, and you know that as you're going in. If you're recording a piece of music or a song, you hope that you're going to be able to play it live. Then you have to pay special attention to that and know what you did, and as Andy's saying, what attitude you had or what sounds you used or things like that. And then of course there's a whole realm of music where that's not the idea. And so in that music it's free form and you probably will never do the same thing twice. When it comes to soloing, I like to try to go in fresh and do it the first 1 or 2 times, because I find if I don't do it the first 1 or 2 times and find something really there that I like, then I'm doomed to have to do it another 32 times to get back to where I wanted it to be the first time. So I try very hard to just know, okay, this is the sound I'm going to use, or sounds, and this is the attitude. I think that's a very good word for it. You have something in your head, and from that moment on, like Andy has said, all the experience, all the practice time, all the things we've had, they take over. And from that moment on, you're really not really thinking, you're just in the moment. And hopefully you're going to get from the beginning to the end in some fashionable method that's going to make everybody love it.
I would like to ask a semi-personal question, because I did a little calculation, and the first time I saw you play live is nearly 35 years ago in the Ahoy in Rotterdam. The second time I saw you play live was also 35 years ago, also in Ahoy, only weeks later. And the first time was with Zappa, and the second time was with Bowie. And Andy mentioned attitude. How did you change or adapt your attitudes going from, let's say, Rondo Hatton to Captain Tom?
Well, when I joined Frank's band, it was the first and only time I'd ever had any teaching, really. I like to say that I graduated from Frank's School of Rock, the Zappa School of Rock. And in Frank's situation, what he wanted mostly was for you to learn his music, play it correctly and consistently, and he would give you a little bit here and there where you could create something of your own. Maybe you had a solo somewhere in one of the songs, but that was not the idea. He didn't need your input as much as he needed you just to be able to service his music correctly. So that was a year in which I learned how to do those things and be disciplined, and learned how to be a recording artist and how to travel around the world and you know, all the sort of daily things that you need to know that up to that point I'd never experienced. I'd never flown anywhere or done anything up to that point. I graduated from that, if you want to call it graduation, I'm not sure, or I was demoted to playing with David Bowie. And I'm just kidding, David. The attitude that David had was just the opposite. His was, I want you just to go wild on guitar and just play whatever you want and make it as crazy as you can make it, and I don't care what the notes are, and I don't care if you ever play it the same way twice. So I kind of jumped from the one section where you're really being, you know, very technical and very precise, into something where you're being very freed up. Talking Heads was the same thing again. And then I went into King Crimson, and King Crimson was kind of the combination of all those things.
Could it have something to do with the fact that maybe Zappa himself saw himself more as a composer than a performer?
I believe so, and that's the way I see him as well. I mean, he told me many times that if he didn't have to go play the music live, he probably wouldn't. He would rather create it and compose it than, you know, say go out and do the same thing every night over and over, play that same music. That was his idea. David's, of course, is totally different from that. Everyone approaches music with their own expectations and hopes. So I've had such fortunate experiences. I have to pinch myself. Ouch!
And both of you, as Mark also described, you do so many different styles. as many interesting composers slash musicians as yourself do. What are your views on the fact that the music industry, the media are more and more getting labeled and formatted? How do you deal with that? Well, Andy.
Well, I think that's a convenience for the media. And I think as artists, we probably think it's bullshit. Always, you go, I mean, you go back to a simple example, like they want to put a CD when they used to make CDs, remember that? 100 years ago. They put it in a rack and they need to put it under some title, But basically what it betrays is a complete lack of imagination on the part of the media, because the most interesting art is always the art that's on the edges and in between, defined style maybe. That's where it starts to get interesting. It's probably what both Adrian and I get interested in, these sort of almost, I'm not really sure what I call this, but Jesus, it's really got my attention, So, was that the question? Shall I get that?
I don't care because I like the answer.
Yeah.
The answer was very good, though. Other than the question, we can formulate a question to get that answer.
I'll dub some question in later.
Yeah.
I don't live in that world at all where there's labels to things. Early on, I realized I was not going to make music that was going to be serviceable in that way on the radio and be popular and things. And I was kind of sad at that because I'd hoped I could do that. But once I got over that and realized, well, then just go the opposite way, I realized, no, what I want to do is be outside of the music business because I don't like the music business part. It's full of a lot of people who want to try to make money from your art, and that's really not why I'm in it. The money is secondary to the art. So, in that situation, I really don't actually feel like I'm in the music business at all, especially if I ever watch something like the Grammys or one of those shows. I think, who are these people? Oh, those are people who make popular records. Oh, great, good luck. So I don't have to have the labels. And how would you even label King Crimson anyway? For example, and that's just one thing, but how would you do that, It's better not to label yourself. It's better to move forward and just, as Andy's been doing and I've been doing all of us, just keep trying new things, keep trying to be excited by and inspired by things, because that's the way that you stay young and keep moving forward.
I have one last question, I think, because we're moving on to the next program part. Did you ever have a feeling that you got stuck as a guitar player and didn't feel like you were moving forward creatively, or when you were practicing, or has that ever happened to you? And maybe the various genres.
Well, if you live long enough, I think it's going to be hard to think that you never hit a plateau at some point. Probably you do. Maybe I've been one for a long time. I'm not sure. But I think if you're genuinely interested and you love it, you're just naturally going to keep going on. You will keep looking for new things. I mean, the guitar is completely infinite. In one sense, you're never going to master the instrument. There's always something else. It's an instrument of infinite possibility. So until they put me in the grave, I mean, I'm sure I'm going to still keep going with it. To see Adrian and stuff, so inspiring to me. Like, wow. Man, I didn't think of that. Yeah, great. There's always that. Or even play with Ben. All the stuff he's done is completely different and brilliant. So I think the instrument is very inspirational in itself.
It is. In fact, to me, it's the most expressive instrument. And along with certain things like a saxophone or something where you're physically bending the notes and doing things like that, you can't do on a tempered instrument or on a percussive instrument or something. The beautiful thing about the guitar is that you bend the notes and you can express yourself with it, or you do tremolo the notes, or whatever manner you use, depending on which type of guitarist you are. It's the perfect way to express yourself. And I think I absolutely agree, it's totally endless. What I do is I just keep finding new things, and every 5 years or so I change my gear around a little bit, and maybe I'll find a new tuning or something that that will get me on to a few new ideas or new songs or something. And there's easy ways to keep yourself from being stale, and some of them are free. for example, just tune the instrument a little different, and that's free, and then you'll come up with something you couldn't play otherwise.
Okay. I think you are wanted downstairs for the practicing of plug and play.
The police,
That's singer for me.
police here. Sorry, I had to throw that in.
So maybe one question to end then. For the young people who are playing here today and who are practicing, do you have any recommendations as far as the real practicing stuff? You know, the routine stuff.
Routine. Yeah, you know, I can't say that. I had more of a routine on classical guitar because you know it's much harder, and I feel it's really necessary to, you know, specifically practice, you know, playing arpeggios with, you know, right hand and trying to keep the movement of your right hand very smooth and small, and scales and all that. I mean, in terms of like electric guitar and improvising, I think it's very important actually to play with a metronome.
Okay.
Because, you know, I often just pick up the guitar and I go, oh, let me practice at, you know, a way past practicing a major or minor scale. I know them all, I've lived with them for so long, but I just start playing. And I, I get, you know, the hand slowly gets, you know, sort of looser but tighter. And you know, I feel like even if you're playing with a pick, you know, and I play to a lot of, sometimes I like to just improvise with fingers because you get a different kind of feel out of it. More of a jazz feel if I play with my fingers. Still playing, you know, improvised lines. But sometimes, and more in rock, I'll play with a pick, but not always, because, you know, if you play electric guitar loud, you know, for rock, you actually need, you know, people might think, oh, you're going to play really hard, because it's, no, you play the guitar louder, and you play very light. So you get very fast playing with the fingers on a loud electric, and that's the way I do it. But, you know, I think in your early stages, you probably need to learn all scales and practice, but I think, you know, if you're like, let's just say you're an advanced player, and you really can play, I just think it's very useful to, you know, I've started doing this more recently, you know, like, you know, play for an hour, just to, you know, play every day. But play with a metronome on different settings. Sometimes it's good to put the metronome really slow, and then see if you can really, like, sustain a lot of double time playing against it, and always keeping your beat. I have a very good, you know, pulse, so I don't actually have much of a problem. I don't have a problem at all, in fact, with it, but I like to still like that. It's just a little bit like home, you know, like we all have to practice at home before you go to the studio or whatever. But then it's like you're playing with a drummer, and you can play in triplets, you can play out, you go out of the time and come back in. Just a simple thing of having a metronome. And a lot of players don't play with it, and they really should. I always find the one thing with playing with other guitarists or other musicians is, okay, you know, you play your solo, and then they have to accompany you, and this is where you find out if they can, where they're at, because, and you find, you know, time is not that good. Time, the ability to fill time is the most important thing if you're going to be an improviser. Because if you feel that, you can go out, you can be free, but you always come back. You know, it's the number one thing before harmony, technique, scales, or anything, is that you feel the pulse, you feel the time. And I think to some degree it's a gift. You know, you have the innate pulse. You can try and learn it, but I mean, hopefully if you're going to be a musician, you just have it.
Yeah.
If you don't really have it, I think music will always be very difficult for you. Yeah. What always, when you hear, there's a lot of guitarists, especially guitarists, you know, this is such an obsessive instrument, will learn lots of, and then you put them in a setting where they play it down and they've actually got to play time. They're not that good, the time is not there. They learn to move their fingers fast, but the innate, more musical thing is the feeling for time. If you don't get that, it doesn't sound so much like music. You know, if you hear a great improviser like Charlie Parker, for instance, you know, the feeling for time is incredible. He's always playing double time, triple time over the chord changes. You know?
Okay, thanks. And maybe, can you tell me something about Circus Zero? Because when we talked on the phone for Guitarist magazine,
oh, yeah.
we didn't have the name yet, but so what exactly is it like? What when you say a rock trio?
Well, it's going to start like that. We'll see. It's all, you know, a developing thing. But I've found a very talented musician who has a great singing voice, killer voice. A guy called Rob Giles that was in a band called The Rescues in California. We hooked up about February of this year, and slowly started, oh yeah, let's make an album. But as we got into it, we had such a good chemistry. So, in fact, throughout the year, we've built all the songs for the album, and they're fantastic rock songs, very hooky with his fantastic vocals. I feel like, I'm really going to have a go at this.
Who are the other members?
Well, we got another drummer. Dan. Can't remember his other name. No, we just met him last week. I think he's going to be the guy that's going to play with us. But in fact, as I left Los Angeles, the record was halfway through being mixed, and I wanted to check it. It sounded great. And when I get back next week, here, I think we've got it. Because I think the one thing we decided both to do is, because the world now is different with the recording industry, which is almost non-existent, and how you put out a record, and how you set up the whole thing to go out and tour and try and really be, a successful band, which is, believe me, I've lived it. It's great fun. I am very confident with this record because they're killer rock songs. It's guitar-driven rock, but the guy is very lyrical, interesting lyrics, and the guy Rob is a great singer. So I'm actually excited because I think it's very good rock. Very good rock. It's not like real heavy metal or anything. But it's edgy, I don't know what you... It's the songwriting that's so strong. The guitar playing is pretty good too. That's great. What's amazing is that we really made the record between us because Rob is a very good drummer. As it turned out, he's sort of a super talent, and then he played killing rock bass, and he plays the guitar well too. So we were basically able to do this record between us, and we sort of upped the ante on the tracks as we went. Sometimes you come back and redo the drums as we really got to know the material. So we've sort of built it throughout the year. So I think we had a 10-song album. But I played a track in New York last week on radio because I had to be there. I went on a radio station and we played. I said, let me just try this out. And I played the one track. It's called "Say Goodnight," and they got so many calls. It sounds like a fantastic hit. A very good rock song. Anyway, so you can see I'm enthusiastic, but I didn't think I'd do another rock band like this. And we're doing very different music here, but this is a full-on, song-driven, rock band. And Rob decided that he would like to play bass because he really likes to be a player. At the beginning, he was just going to be the singer. So I think we're going to start with the three of us and maybe two backup singers.
Okay.
And hopefully, right after Christmas, we'll start really getting this out into the world and announcing it and doing it however you do it now through social media and Facebook and YouTube and new scene.
You can connect with every fan individually.
Yeah. That's what I do. Yeah, I know. That is kind of the scene now. You're supposed to ask every fan in the world to come and have dinner with you, practically move in with you. I think I'll be doing that. That's when I live. No, all due respect all around, but I know there's some people get quite aggressive about that. I grew up with a different kind of idea that if you were the star, you're sort of semi-mythical, you're kind of, and that's how it's always been. But now we've got into we're starting to get down into the digital age, and everyone expects to be, moving in with you. It's sort of amazing, actually. I'm really into it, actually. Yeah.
Okay, Carl, do you have maybe one last question to round this off?
Well, I think it's breaking news that Andy's going to tour the drummer and the singing bass player.
Yeah.
Well, there was some concern about that. So,
I was afraid to bring it up.
yeah, I know. I was surprised, because originally I thought, well, Rob is the name of the singer, Rob Giles. You can't sit behind the drums and say you're too good. You're one of the great singers. He's one of the greatest voices I've heard. So you should be out front. He said, "Oh, I don't play bass." We don't even really need to say why, right? So, but anyway, then he said, man, your bass player is so strong, and then he said, well, I'm really comfortable with it. So he doesn't care. So in the end, he decided, I'll play bass, I was ready to get another guitarist, maybe another bass player that I've been playing with, and he could just be a singer. But, there is something great about being in a trio.
Yeah.
But this guy is so good that it doesn't matter. He's really got it. There's very few people that say that about, because, I did play with one of the greatest singer and bass players of all time, and who remains that way. But I think Rob is right up there. It's rare. you know, I mean, you don't meet it very often in life. You know, and I met this guy. He should have made it. You know, he deserves it. So.
I think it's great you took so much time to do this interview in the media lounge, in the magazine. I want to thank you.
Keep
Thank
encouraging.
you very much.
You know.
Any summers?
And so,
Thank you very much.